From Bad Monkey Studios in beautiful Amish country, heard throughout these fabulous United States and around the globe on the World Wide Web, this is the B Team with Cory and Jim.
That's a good fade today.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
I set it up to self-fade today because I know how that irritates you to let that music run. Matthew Hintz, MD, cares for the entire family, ages newborn through seniors. You can trust Dr. Hintz to provide compassionate, comprehensive health care for your family from prevention, wellness, and illness care to management of acute and chronic conditions. Dr. Hintz attended the Ohio State University College of Medicine in Columbus, Ohio. He completed an internship and residency at Grant Medical Center. He's also certified by the American Board of Family Medicine. Anything I'm missing there, Dr. Hintz?
Well, that's a pretty good intro.
And he's also my family physician. He's my personal physician.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
This
And
guy.
well, and here's the best part of that story. This is the part of the story I love telling everyone, is that he's also the coroner for the county we live in. So, I mean, look at me. He's gonna,
soon.
You're gonna get your money's worth
Well,
out of that.
he'll be stopping by.
Yeah. Yeah, chances are, my family's going to get to know him.
That'll be an easier case because I know you already.
Yeah, that's true.
Not as much investigation.
Yeah. He won't even need to get out of bed for that one. I'd be like,
That's true. So, outside of being a medical doctor and my personal medical doctor, I really don't know that much about you outside of that. Other than I know you run,
Yeah.
because I've seen you out on the highways and byways running.
Uh-huh.
And what about where are you from?
Right. Probably. I grew up in my early years about 2 or 3 miles from here, actually, in Pulaskiville.
oh, nice.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So this was like kind of, all these back roads was like coming home to me. So my dad, when I was a kid, was a pastor of a little church in Pulaskiville, and we lived there about 10 years. And so you talk about running. I have biked and jogged all these little back roads with my dad because he's the one that kind of got me into running. And so, yeah. And then my family moved to Delaware, so not too far from here. So I've always kind of been a local guy and came back to my roots when I came back to Mount Gilead for my practice. So
Nice. Now, had you set up practice somewhere else?
No. Actually, it was kind of an interesting thing. When I was in medical school at Ohio State, I ended up getting assigned to do a rotation in Mount Gilead with one of the local doctors. And when I was here, started negotiations with the hospital to come back. So that just worked out.
Yeah.
Wow. We're lucky to have you.
Yeah.
I really feel that. Yeah.
Thanks.
You're busy. You're the busiest person I think I've ever met.
I have a busy schedule, but I try to balance it. Family's important to me too, so I try to take time and make sure I have time for my family, and it's a challenge sometimes, but we make it work.
Wife and one daughter?
2 daughters.
2 daughters.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
What ages are they?
They're 10 and 8, and they are into dance and music and that kind
Krav
of thing.
Maga.
More than anything.
Yeah.
Krav Maga. Yeah.
The basics.
No, you told me one time, I went in for an appointment one time, and your wife had taken you to, what was it, the opera or something like that? Is that something that you follow or?
No.
Nope. Okay. All
That's
right.
something I will do, and I will do willingly because I love my wife, but opera isn't necessarily my thing. So, but we enjoy the arts. I mean, we enjoy going out for, whether it's, I've been known to go to a ballet or the opera or musicals, other things like that. but
Expand the mind, Cory.
but give me a sporting event or something like that. That's probably more up my alley. So,
See?
Really?
Yeah.
What do you like sports wise?
if I was going to go to a sporting event,
Yeah.
baseball would be my event to go to. I just think that's the best to sit and watch.
Yeah.
It's not a
You
bad
know,
one. Yeah.
You can enjoy it, but have a conversation with people that you're with and not miss everything that's going on. And you're outside. It's a nice day. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But I'm kind of a sports guy in general. I'll do any kind of sports. So,
Yeah. I mean, it's obvious I keep myself in Olympic condition
Sure.
year round.
Right.
So I too am a sporting gentleman.
Yeah.
As
Mostly though, like,
well, anybody
solo
can
stuff.
anybody can
Yeah.
enjoy sports. That doesn't mean you have to play sports.
yeah. No, yeah. I
So-
enjoy them from my couch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly. Best seat in the house.
Anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like, do I want to pay $100 for a ticket, or I can see it on HD for
Yeah.
free?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now
So-
my dad grew up just outside of the Chicago area, so he's a lifelong Cubs fan. So this last year was like big for us. And my uncle actually has season tickets to the Cubs, and so my dad got to go to one of the World Series games. And
Oh, nice.
yeah,
That's
Really?
awesome.
that was big.
Wow. That is big.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's so funny you mentioned that. I was going to actually try to open with a joke about the Cubs winning, because it's kind of the new season started. But I was
Don't
like,
joke about it. It's not a joke.
not
I-
anymore,
no.
because it's legit.
Yeah. It's for real. Do you mentioned your dad's favorite team. What about yours?
Oh yeah, I'm a Cubs fan. My dad raised me a Cubs fan, and so professional teams would Cubs for football. It would be the Packers. My dad grew up kind of in just over the border in Wisconsin, so a lot of family that's in Wisconsin. So he grew up a Packers fan. So those are the two professional teams that I probably predominantly follow. This year I got a little bit into the Jackets, with their success.
Yeah.
Right.
That was kind of fun to follow them a little bit. And then, of course, I'm a Buckeyes fan. So
Yeah, of course. Is your wife, is she from around here?
she's from Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Oh,
met.
so Amish, that doesn't really throw her off.
No, not at
Yeah.
all. In fact, the town that she lives in is not too unlike Mount Gilead. That's right here where we practice, and it's kind of in the heart of Amish country there too. So, yep.
Does she work? Is she?
No, she homeschools our girls.
There you go.
Yep.
Good. Well, we have questions from listeners.
I guess I should take that back in
Go
case
ahead.
she listens to this. I just said no, she doesn't work. She's
No.
gonna hate me if I
Yeah.
say that. She probably works harder than I do.
Taking care of kids is as easy as childbirth.
Yeah.
Simple. Nothing to
Sure.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we have questions from listeners. And we also, I've put in some general questions that I had about your job, your work that you do. Cory, did you have anything you wanted to start with, or?
I do. I have a couple questions. I mean, the first one, I'll save some of the other ones for later. But so you're a doctor.
Is that a question?
Well, no, that's a statement.
Yeah, what's that
But
all
the-
about?
The question is, let's break down this whole North Korea thing.
Yeah.
Go. I'm kidding.
Wow.
From a medical standpoint, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you can ask anything as long as you say medically speaking first.
All right.
I found that. Well, the first one, now, like I said, some of these are serious questions. Some of these are from listeners and from us. How crucial is the formation of a long-term relationship between a patient and a primary care physician? That relationship that you have.
Well, you'll probably get a variety of opinions on that, but my opinion would be that it's extremely crucial, especially in primary care. Probably across the board, but certainly in primary care. My thought on that, or my reasoning on that, is that in terms of a patient buying into their overall health and a health plan and what you're planning to do for them, you're going to have a lot better results if you have somebody that feels like they can trust the person that's giving them the advice. So if you can work together with a patient and develop a relationship with them where they feel like, you have their best interest in mind, you know them, you care about them as a person, then they're going to trust the advice that they give you, and they're going to be a lot more likely to carry that out. There's a lot of studies out there on how much, when a patient walks out the door of the office, how much of what you've told them do, one, they understand, and then two, how much of that do they actually put into practice. And my eyes have been open to that in a big way in the role of coroner, because now I go into people's homes and to do investigations, and it's not uncommon to find a box full of medications. There's 2 or 3 prescriptions for the same medicine, and they're sitting around and laying around, and you just wonder how much of this are people really taking? How much do they understand how they're supposed to do it? And so I think developing those relationships is just incredibly important.
Yeah, I guess I need to back up a little bit on that when I did mention that you were also the coroner for the county. How much extra training outside of your MD, what type of training does that require to become a coroner?
Well, there is some training involved. I imagine that every state is a little bit different. The state of Ohio has its own set of rules, I'm sure, related to coroners, and they're not all set up the same. Some states have a medical examiner system, so I can only speak for the state of Ohio. It's an elected position, so that's something that you have to be elected to. And once elected, there is the Ohio State Coroners Association puts on a new coroners training session that you're required to go to, and that goes through some of the legalities and in terms of what's involved. It also goes through basic investigation. And then we have a yearly training conference. I think, I'm not going to remember the exact number of hours, but there's a certain number of hours that you're required to do by state law or by Ohio Revised Code that says this many hours of continuing education in the field of medical legal death investigation. So,
wow. I remember the first coroner I ever worked with was in Galleon, and it was the most interesting thing to me. Things that I never thought about, like this lady in a trailer that she lived in, she had passed away, and he came in and he figured out that the plants she had growing in that trailer were toxic together. Separately, they would have been fine, but she was growing these particular plants too close to each other or something, and they were spawning death. Or
it's like that M. Night Shyamalan movie with Wahlberg. I don't forget the name of it. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
That
Trees kill people.
Yeah, M. Night, he kind of fell off. I mean, the lady in the water kind of threw me.
Midnight, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I call him, Midnight.
There's a new one, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got, I saw just like a brief preview.
Yeah, so did I.
That.
I saw it on like Facebook. Somebody put up
I didn't see a trailer yet, but
yeah,
it's going to be one of those twist ending ones, I bet.
They all are.
Per usual.
This question is from Cory.
No relation.
Is it ever safe? Well, after looking at the question, is it ever safe to insert items into your rectum? Cory.
Well, I'm not exactly sure where he's going with that, but yes.
Or she. Come on, Doc. Come on.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yes.
Great question, though.
I mean, if the question is it ever safe? Well, then yes. I mean, there are things that are intended to be inserted rectally. There's things that we do all the time in the medical field, or that there's colonoscopies. Those are done rectally, and those are incredibly safe and valuable. For people who are struggling with constipation or fecal impaction, we do enemas, and that involves inserting something rectally. I'm not sure if the question involves other, I guess without getting too graphic, I would just say that, in general, it's a safe orifice for inserting things. You certainly have to be careful because damage can be done if you're using objects that weren't intended for that purpose. I guess that's...
But just not storage.
Well...
Hamsters and sitch.
I would say that there's plenty of stories of people who have used that for storage purposes, but I don't think that was the intention. So,
yeah. I don't know, not for me. That's exit only. Now, when you get your
suppositories, bro,
you're a young pup yet. You don't have to worry. But there's going to be a day when Dr. Jellyfinger puts on the glove and says it's
by
time.
that point in time, it'll be all digital. They'll be able to just press a button. They'll be able to look exactly what they need. It'll be there.
Well,
so you want a robot in there instead?
No, I'm not. No, I'm saying it'll be non-invasive. Maybe I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, the fingers are also digits. So when you say digital, it is currently called a digital rectal exam, and that involves a.
Can I go to analog then?
I'm starting to sweat just thinking about it. Yeah, because you think, and it just seems like it's like we're going to the elbow in there, but then you find out because he explains it really well.
Now you're getting a little personal about our interactions here.
Yeah.
Not everybody goes to the elbow.
No. And if they do, they certainly don't talk about it on the radio. Do you detach yourself, or do you become frustrated at non-compliance with advice or treatment recommendations?
Well, can I say yes and no?
Oh, yeah, that seemed like a yes and no question, actually.
I mean, it's frustrating because you want what's best for a patient, and when you see that they're not doing what you feel may be in their best interest, to some degree, you feel like I'm doing my best to try to help you, and if you see somebody not doing the things that you'd like them to do, it's frustrating. The other side of that is that I try to take an approach with my patients where I say, you know what, my job as your doctor is to help you make the decision that you feel is in your best interest. And you and I may not agree on that ultimately, and that's okay. If you have the information, you as a patient have the ability to and should feel free to make a decision that you feel is best for you. And so to be able to step back a little bit and say, okay, I don't think that this is going well, or that this is the right decision, but I respect your autonomy in that. I guess maybe the biggest frustration is when you have patients that keep coming back with problems that they want you to fix, but they don't want to fix them.
They don't want to do the homework.
They don't want to do what it takes in order to fix it. And so that becomes frustrating because they continue to come back with a please fix me mentality, but then when you offer them the solution, if they don't want to take it, that that gets. When
I first went to Doc Hintz, it was because I was too muscular.
Sure. And that can wear on the joints.
It can.
That's a lot of weight.
It can.
Look at NBA players.
We've been working on that,
centers and stuff.
We're where we are now. I think we're in a good place. I think we're getting there.
Yeah. So just slimming down.
It's on his right. No, but
leaner.
You're certainly not the guy who just at the end of the day says, "I gave my advice. Whatever you want to do." You don't come off to me as that guy, because you've helped me with a couple situations where, he wanted me to monitor my blood sugar, and I don't know if you know anything about that stuff, but this equipment that you can get really costly. Well, I got into a fist fight with my insurance, and I didn't think there's going to be a way to do it. But the next time I went to his office, he had already found some information for me, and I got this stuff at
good. That worked out.
Oh, it worked out great. So
good.
Yeah, you're not that guy, and that makes me feel good about our relationship.
Sure.
Is that I don't expect you to, at the end of the day, be driving home going, gee, I just hope Jim is okay. I don't expect that. But, when my record's in front of your face, you go, oh, yeah, you can remember, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You just have good recall with your patient load.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that, but you do.
How many patients do you have now?
Oh, honestly, I'm not sure. I think we probably have in our practice 2,000, 2,500 patients, something like that.
Now, you're not solo then. You have a couple other docs working with you, or?
Right now I work in an office with other doctors, but those would be patients that are primarily assigned to me as the doctor. So, yeah, as, in terms of that, it seems like a lot, but there are a lot of people. You probably don't go to your doctor very often.
Once a year.
Yeah, you're young, relatively healthy. And there are many people, especially men, that are probably in that age range of 20 to 50 who I'm only going to see if something bad happens.
It's generally me.
Yeah. And so, to manage that group of patients, you're going to have, a percentage of those that are in for regular visits or coming in monthly or every 3 months or something like that. But a vast number of those are ones that you're only going to see on rare occasions. So it stays busy, but
sure.
Yeah. But outside of just a patient load, like we talked earlier today when you first came in, you have to go visit like a nursing home.
Yeah, and that's a choice. Not everybody does that, but that's something that I've kind of done from the beginning. And I think the role of primary care doctors has changed a little bit, even over the time that I've been involved in primary care. When I started, it was very common that most primary care physicians still went to the hospital and saw their patients in the hospital and would go to the local nursing homes and visit their patients in the nursing homes, do home visits. A lot of primary care or family practice doctors were still doing obstetrics. And that's changed a lot. I would say it's a rarity now that most primary care physicians are doing both office and hospital-based medicine. And more people, doctors, just due to time constraints and things like that, are focusing most of their time in the office. So,
right. I've always found myself a little intimidated around medical doctors. It's almost when you go to the office, you're at the principal's office back when you were a kid. It's almost that sort of thing. But it's not because an education thing. It's not that I feel I'm lacking a lot of education, or that I couldn't, if I applied myself, couldn't, go to medical school. I think it's more of a thing where to realize at the end of the day that in my lifetime, I probably won't affect positively as many lives as you do, like on a Tuesday. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
I
well,
mean, by just giving someone a prescription that they've never had, that they've needed. You have figured this thing out for them, something that's going to add, 30, 20 years to their life.
Sure.
Something like that. I mean, I can't imagine I would ever affect somebody like that. And that's intimidating to me, to be around somebody who.
Well, I guess I can understand that. Being a doctor, you don't necessarily think of it that way. And I think it's that way. I have conversations with people who, I look at the jobs that they do and I think, oh my goodness, how in the world, can you do that? And I think we're all gifted in different ways and have different things that kind of the way that we're wired in terms of our thinking or our skills or abilities. And so yeah, I have conversations with patients that I have that are, engineers or, even though I have a science background, people who are biochemists and other things like that, and they're talking to me about their jobs. And I just think, wow, I just can't imagine doing some of the things that you're doing. So maybe it's a different level of responsibility in some ways, being a doctor and having people, coming to you in some cases with life and death type of situations. Right. But every job has its challenges, and it's funny because I'm a patient too, not just a doctor, and so it's funny when I step into my doctor's office, I still have that same kind of feeling that you talked about a little bit, like, oh wow, I'm going to my doctor, and I don't always think about that necessarily when patients walk into my office, that they may have that same feeling because it's just what I do.
Right. I always have this thing about my blood pressure. I always when I get there, I'll sit in the lobby and I'll be like, I'll do breathing exercises and everything that I can because I want that to be as low as possible because usually it's through the roof. And
probably because you're stressed about being there.
Yes, I am. Yeah, I have white coat fever, lab coat fever.
I have the exact opposite of that. Usually.
You fall asleep in the
kind of yeah.
Really?
Yep. Just get in there, do what they got to do. Everything good? Yeah.
That's because you're under 30.
Well,
yeah. Wait till you're coming in for your your digital rectal exam.
Yeah,
then your blood pressure may go.
BP is going to be a little high that day.
Well, we're going to do those
I'm
today.
like, you guys put people under for this? Because it's knocked me out.
Our next question is from Raj. I was in a gang with a Matt Hintz a few years ago. Do you have any gang affiliations?
Bloods, Crips?
No, never been a part of a gang.
No. Well, he doesn't really seem the gang type. He's from the cul-de-sac, son. So, slowly but... I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Should get that looked at.
Slowly...
Huh?
Yeah. Slowly...
You should... I queued it up, too, for you.
It's always cancer. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me get that for you.
8 years too late, but thanks. But thanks.
Slowly but surely, primary care doctors are switching over to electronic medical records. How can this improve care?
Wow, we could talk about this for a long, long time.
Really?
I think ultimately it is going to improve care. And the reason for that is because it allows for the sharing of medical information between physicians in a way that we weren't able to do before. So that helps because it provides better continuity of care. If you have a patient in the hospital or something like that, I get records and can follow along with what's happening. When they get discharged from the hospital, we get reports and know what's going on, and can even call those patients and say, we just saw you got discharged from the hospital. Why don't we get you in here for an appointment if those things weren't already scheduled? It's going kind of from an old system of paper and trying to look for the results that you wanted to having results at your fingertips. And that's great. The downside is that we're still I think we're still in the growing pains of electronic medical record. There's a lot of things about it right now that actually my opinion is almost bog down the system or make it a little bit cumbersome for our physicians or providers to take care of patients. The amount of information that comes in becomes somewhat overwhelming at times to sort through and to figure out what's important, what's not important. There's just a lot more time that is involved in going through all that. So the information is good. It's just trying to figure out the processes of how do you manage all the information? How do you do that in a way that you don't speed over things because you have so much to look through that in the process of doing that, you missed a key item. And one thing that I tell people a lot is, in days gone by before the electronic medical record, when we were all dictating things, there would be a nice one-page dictation of, here's what happened when the patient was in the hospital. And, I could easily read that and get the highlights in, a very short period of time. Now with electronic medical record, I may get a computer generated document that comes from a hospital that's 10 pages long and says the same thing about 3 different times over, but somewhere buried in there was the nugget I needed. And now I've got to spend all that time really searching through that and getting the information. So it's good, and I'm glad for it. When it started, I never thought I would hear myself saying that because I was kind of resistant to the change. But overall, I think it's a good thing. It's just that we're still, I think, trying to figure out a way of managing that information and making it work. My gut feel is as time goes on, the number of electronic medical records that are out there and the variety of forms that they come is going to get whittled down to just a few that are really compatible with each other and are going to help avoid some of that information overload.
Because whenever you have anything new like that, well, relatively new, There's going to be a lot of vendors that jump on that.
Right. And it already has got whittled down significantly from the choices that we had when it first started. There's probably 3 main players in the hospital setting that have the largest market share, and I don't know how many from a office-based setting, but a lot of those are marketing products that are kind of for both. So, for instance, an organization like Ohio Health, it's a large organization in our area, has an electronic medical record that goes across their system to include both the hospital and the physician offices. So that flow of information and how it comes to you is a lot better to manage. So,
well, I remember being a young cop. I was at Gallion, Ohio, at the police department there, and when we got our first computers. You know, we were using the electronic typewriter before that. And I remember our boss telling us, yeah, this is the wave of the future. We're going to be paperless in the next decade. There won't be a piece of paper in this building. And you know how that has turned out.
Right, yeah.
I mean, we're talking about 1987, 88, when they were trying to sell us all this, that computers are the way to go. But you have to back up the backup nowadays, and it all ends up on paper somewhere because they have to keep. Ultimately, they have to.
I think eventually it'll be paperless, but it's going to take a while.
It is.
It'll take a long time.
Yeah. We still have a lot of paper with our office too, and I think it's that way across the board. So ultimately, that paper ends up, getting scanned in and becoming digital. But then you have the paper that,
the original, because everybody wants that original,
right? Especially
especially when you're dealing in legal terms. They want that with the stamp on it and all that, signed in blue ink.
Yeah, I got to imagine the best thing for you with the digital records and everything is you don't have to try to read somebody else's handwriting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Because sometimes, docs, they're quick.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a little tricky to read what's going on there.
Sure. Yeah. The old days of a consult note being scribbled or scrawled out and you're trying to figure out the details of what does this really mean. Yeah, those are gone.
Yeah. More convenient there, but
it is. Our next listener question is from Carol. Should fat people kiss? I don't know. See what you got yourself into? Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. The more, the better. I would say.
What happens to the body physiologically when we kiss or when something like that?
Well, are you
good happens?
Speaking from personal experience, like, are you asking me what happens in my body, or or in general, or?
Yeah, let's go general. I'd rather not talk about your body today.
I don't know. I mean, ultimately, we all understand that there are chemical things that happen in terms of the response to a kiss.
Yep.
and those things create positive emotions and positive feelings that are good for us. I don't know, you're going to get me talking about things that I don't know really. I mean, the physiology of or understand all the details on. But to a large degree, our mental health does affect our physical health. And to the degree that we have a relationship with somebody that is close and intimate, and we have a sense of belonging, and that involves a physical relationship or things like that, then that's beneficial for our overall health. So,
smooch a fatty.
That should be a holiday
stamp. It receives Dr. Hintz stamp of approval. I would imagine you care for some enthusiastic online researchers. Your thoughts on WebMD and other public sites like that?
I think that they're good. I think that there's a lot of good information that's on the internet. I also think there's a lot of scary information that's on the internet, or a lot of, I guess I say scary. And I just had a conversation with a patient yesterday who was, who's getting set up for a breast biopsy because of an abnormal mammogram. And she wanted me to write down what I thought she probably had. And I said, I know why you're asking, because you want to go home and look it up. And she said, yes. And I said, I want you to go home and look it up too, because there's a lot of good things that you're going to see and understand. But I also want you to understand that there's a lot of things on the internet that you're going to look at and you're going to have to process, because they either may be misinformation that you're going to need to come back and ask me and say, is this for real, or should I be worried about this? Or, the other thing is that there's always worst case scenarios. Yeah. That's the classic that I get sometimes, is people come in and they've got, a rash or an itch or a little bit of this, and they come in and they've got, cancer, or they have, lupus, or they have some kind of out there thing that is probably not very likely, but because they typed in these symptoms, it was on the list, and now they're concerned that they have it. Now, again, that's both good and bad. The good of it is that as people are looking at that, they're coming to see their doctor, and some of them, a small percentage, but some of them are going to have something like that may otherwise have gone undetected for a longer period of time. And so there's value in that. The other side is that sometimes you got to talk people down off the ledge a little bit and help them to see that, yes, I understand what WebMD said or what one of these other sites said, but let me assure you that based on your exam today and other things that we're doing, or that you don't have what you're concerned about. So,
yeah, that's me. That's me every time. I could smash my finger with a hammer and go to the doctor, and I'm convinced he's going to find cancer. Yeah, I know I've got cancer.
Well, you got two factors involved in that. I think that most people, all of us have an experience with a friend or family member who's had cancer or who's had something bad. And most of us have an experience unfortunately, with a friend or family member where, they either didn't go to the doctor, or the doctor said, don't worry about it, I think it's nothing, and it turned out to be something. So everybody has in the back of their mind, gee, could that be me? And then you combine that with a little bit of internet research, and you got a ticking time bomb of people who are legitimately concerned, and in most cases don't need to be.
Well, I'm such a wuss, I can't even look it up myself. I'll ask Hannah to look it up for me.
I'll just sweat and just all depressed.
I can't even behind her. She's sitting at the computer, and I'm walking back. I'm looking.
What's it
like
say?
I'm interested.
What's it say?
Yeah,
I've got cancer, don't I? I just got to the website.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Move.
Yeah.
Move.
Just pushing her face.
Yeah.
What? I don't get you. Get it?
Nope. You're on your own.
Unbelievable.
Next listener question is from Dustin. If I burp in space, will I implode or explode? I get confused about those two things, like stalactite and stalagmite. Yeah.
Well, I don't know how to answer that question. I'm not a space expert by far. My understanding of space is that if you were in space and were not in a protective environment, that you would explode, I believe, because you'd have no external pressure. Now we're going to get call-ins or write-ins or something from people who have...
No, bro. No. Okay, Star Trek, Episode 2, Season 8.
Tickling the tribbles. Yeah. Well, my dad was the first man to sneeze in space and live to tell about it. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's a bold-faced lie.
Yeah. Some physicians have said the sheer volume of insurance paperwork was number one on the list of things that interfere with their ability to provide optimal care. Are you like-minded?
Boy, it's hard to pick out.
Just some well-formed questions, aren't they?
Yeah, it's hard to pick out one thing.
They're okay.
There's
insurance, though. Isn't that the bane of of everybody's
of everyone's existence?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, the struggles with insurance are a few things. I would say, honestly, the biggest issue that I find on a daily basis with insurance is in regard to medications, because each insurance has its own set of preferred medications and other things that way. So going through a process of trying to figure out, okay, this is the medication that I'd like this patient to get, is this one that their insurance will allow them to get? And if not, is there one that's similar that we could use, or do I need to insist that this is the one that they need to use? And then if that's the case, that involves a process of working through the insurance, to what we call prior authorize that, which means either a phone call or getting online and going through their system to try to get authorization. And so that process can become very time consuming.
So sometimes you actually cannot prescribe what you need to prescribe because of insurance?
Yeah, not only sometimes, I would say, I mean, it is a daily occurrence that there would be medications that you feel are in the best interest of your patients, but for whatever reason behind the scenes, the insurance companies have negotiated with the pharmaceutical companies and have their preferred medications. And so you have to know what those are. Now, going back to electronic medical record, I guess one other advantage of that is that now many of these electronic medical records have built-in systems where you can kind of check those ahead of time, and you can see, is this one that's going to be approved by the insurance company or not? But even then, sometimes it looks like in the computer that it's fine, and then we get paperwork back that says no, it's not. And I mean, it's a frustration for us as healthcare providers, because that's extra time that we have to put into trying to get our patients what they want. But it's also a frustration for a patient. If they've had a conversation with their doctor and they understand, and the doctor, if he's done his or her due diligence and good job at explaining to a patient, this is what I want you to take, this is what the medicine is, this is what, and then they go to the pharmacy and the pharmacy says, I'm sorry, you can't get this medicine. Well, now what am I going to do? And then if the doctor changes the medicine, well, is this the same kind of medicine? Is this the same side effects, or are there different side effects? Does this mean I need to go back to my doctor and have that's quite a frustration.
Will you actually volley back and forth with the insurance company on, well, we're not going to allow you to prescribe this to our patient, but
yes.
I mean, do they give suggestions?
Yes.
Are they qualified? How do you know that they're qualified to do that? Or do you have to do the research?
No, I mean, the majority of them, the good thing, I suppose, in today's medical world is that we have a lot of options that are very similar medicines. And so it ends up being, for instance, for a blood pressure agent or something like that, there's different categories, and I don't want to get real detailed on that, but different categories of medicines that take care of blood pressure in different ways. In each of those categories, there may be 3 or 4 choices. So, what you prefer as a physician, or maybe your drug of choice, may not be the insurance's drug of choice. And so you may have to use Med B, which would be just as good. In most cases, it ends up being that way. But occasionally it's ones that, this is the best option, or this is the only thing, and you're just not able to do it. So that becomes frustrating.
Well, that would frustrate and scare me.
Yeah.
It's probably better not to ever let me know that that's happening, because, I mean, if my doctor sits in the office across from me and says, I'm going to put you on this because I think this is going to help you with A, B, and C, I don't even want to know that somebody made him make a second choice on that. You follow what I'm saying?
I got you.
I can't. Yeah, my OCD won't let that happen.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's all right. You need a hug?
Am I going to be okay?
No.
This question is from Jim. When did you decide to become a medical doctor instead of a physician? Is that in medical school? Do you make that choice?
I don't know what the difference is or what his question is for sure. I mean, I would say those things are the same.
Okay.
Unless his question got cut off, maybe, and he meant to say physician assistant or something like that, which is a little bit different.
Well, I know a guy named Jim who's a doctor as well.
There's a question
I suppose
now there's different degrees of being a doctor.
Some help people, some
do other stuff. But that's like, it's funny, and I don't want to be disrespectful to anyone that is a doctor, air quotes, but when I think of a doctor,
Well,
I think of a medical professional, right?
yeah,
Generally, that's like first thought in your head,
sure.
So when other people say, "Hey, I'm a doctor of," it's funny to me. It's just too weird.
Like, is a dentist a doctor to you?
Well, that has something to do with medical stuff, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of.
A dentist doesn't have to have an MD though, right?
No.
No.
Come on.
But like, there's different degrees.
Chiropractor.
There's different degrees of even doctors, like medical doctors.
Yeah.
Like
specialists.
you've got your podiatrists, and then you have like surgeons, like ER guys.
Well, they've picked a specialty. Yeah,
Yeah.
surgeons. Are they the surgeons? They were the guys in college that wore the lampshades on their heads and drank too much, aren't they?
How dare you?
They're animals, aren't they?
How dare you?
Surgeons.
I think I don't want to get too stereotypical, but I think I mean, you have to be a certain personality type to enjoy surgery and the rigors of that, and maybe that attracts people who also like to kick back and. But I'll tell you, I mean, it's. I'm really not a drinker or a party person. I'm kind of boring that way, I guess some people may say, but I'm amazed at some of these things that I go to at the
like a conference or something,
a conference or a golf outing or things like that. Doctors can, they get kind of wild sometimes.
Get a little loose.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't think anybody's being irresponsible. I suppose maybe it's just the rigors of the job sometime that, it's nice if you get a minute to take a break and
let off some steam.
Sure, that take advantage of that. So
yeah, that's critical anywhere.
I'm going to get a lot of calls on that comment too. I just know it. People are going to search me out somewhere.
There's three people listening to you right now. That's all there are.
And one is the guy who just asked if when I made the choice between an MD and a physician. So
yeah. That's different.
Sorry, you may have just lost that listener.
Oh, and here, this is my personal question, and I told you, as long as you qualify it, medically speaking, why do I have a beard?
Science.
Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah.
Why do you?
Yeah, I'll tell you right now what he wants to say.
Why do you personally choose to have a beard?
Yeah.
I don't know, medically speaking, why you choose to have a beard. I'll tell you. I mean, I grow a beard, from time to time, and I usually do it because I'm lazy, and that means I have less time in the morning to shave.
How about you being lazy? No.
So.
No, mine's wrong for that. I wish I had a thing on here that. Oh, here we'll use this.
It could be, I suppose, hide certain facial features.
Yeah. Yeah. See, there you go. I started getting the triple chin,
the double, triple.
No,
beards are great for that.
You went right past the double, and
I was
just
just trying to be funny with that joke, but I actually.
It's appropriate that went off because it was such a terrible joke.
Yeah, it is. But I grew this for a film project that we were working on, and then fell in love with it. Yeah. Well, my wife kind of liked it.
She did. I was gonna,
because I have a Charlie Brown head. Okay.
It's big. That thing's huge.
Yeah.
Have you measured it?
No. No.
It's 8 inches around. Has to be.
It elongates.
That's huge.
The beard itself, it kind of elongates.
Yeah, if you let it go, if you let it get a little longer, like yours is.
You shaped it up well.
My wife would never let me go for the longer beard thing.
Yeah.
You just have to be shirtless, like Leonidas in 300. Then you can grow it out.
Well,
it's not a problem. All the time though. It's a commitment though. You just have to be shirtless 90% of the time.
Well, that's what you want from me.
I do.
Yeah.
We'll paint those abs on you. You'll be crushing it in no time.
The doc doesn't have that long with us here today. Let's get moving. We don't have time for your silliness.
How dare you?
I recently heard the term patient-centered medical home. What do you know about that? What's What is that?
Yeah, that patient-centered medical home is a concept that has been proposed a long time ago. I think initially was a pediatric concept, or a concept that was involved in pediatrics, where the idea was to provide a center of medical information and such, so that each child it was a comprehensive approach. And then some people have latched onto that in primary care, and there's a growing movement towards trying to create a model that it may be better than our current system of how we take care of patients. And so what the patient-centered medical home basically says is, rather than a model where you have a physician and then everything else happens outside of that physician's office, you develop an office-based approach where you have individuals inside of the office that can help provide kind of a comprehensive care model. So it involves things like maybe other nursing services, education services inside of the office. It's kind of a managing of all of the healthcare information. So being a hub, so to speak, for each patient. The goal of that is ultimately to provide better patient care and a better patient experience, so a patient feels like they're more involved in their health care, and they aren't having to go multiple places and being go in multiple directions. The other goal of it is to try to decrease the cost overall of medical care. I'm interested to see if and how that's going to happen. I think there's some models out there where they say that there could be a cost savings of about 5 to 6% or something like that, which doesn't seem like a lot. But when you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar industry in terms of healthcare, that starts to add up. And obviously the government starts to want to look at that because of Medicare cost and things that way. So it isn't fully developed. There's a few places that are that have some models together where they're trying to implement that and see how it works out, and it's gaining steam. But that's ultimately, I guess, in a nutshell. You could get very complicated in understanding all the nitty gritty of it, but in a nutshell, that's kind of what it's about.
Well, our insurance provides what they call a nurse line, and they really encourage you to use that. Is that part of that, or?
Well, no. I mean, so what's happened at this point is that insurance companies have tried to fill in some of the gaps that there are right now. I think that'd probably be, in my opinion, that'd probably be the best way of saying it, is that they realize that there are some patient education gaps, some patient follow-up gaps in terms of, okay, your doctor just did this. Now, what happens in the gap between now and when you see your doctor next. And so insurance companies have stepped in and said, hey, we can have some case managers that give our patients a phone call, and that's going to improve their overall quality of care. As best as I can understand, in a patient-centered medical home model, that's going to now be fall under the doctor's office to provide those types of services. And so patients would feel like they're more connected into that office, and that wouldn't necessarily be the doctor, but it may be another nurse in the office calling and doing follow-up and saying, how are things going? Or, we're not going to have you come back for a doctor's appointment, but how about we have you come back in 2 weeks just to check in with me and see how things are going and things. So
I'm always so suspicious of anything to do with insurance. I just
what's their end game?
Exactly. Well, their end game is putting
saving
cash
money
in their pocket.
Right.
Yeah. Avoiding that payout.
My big issue with that now is that a lot of insurance companies, they require you, in a sense, to get that yearly checkup, which is good, I guess, to do. But for me, it's like, it almost seems like you don't have a choice, kind of, or like there could be.
Sure, there's incentives now
where
you'll get a discount on your insurance, or a decreased premium, or maybe your deductible's lower if you do an annual health exam and lab work and other things that way. Yeah. And one, as a healthcare provider, I think it's a great idea. Not just because that's more people coming into my office, but because a lot of people aren't necessarily going to come into the office. And a lot of, the other reality is that we live in an America that we're kind of skewed a little bit in terms of what we see as being appropriate or good health. And so a lot of people are out there saying, I'm healthy, I'm fine. And then, they're forced to get some lab work, or they're forced to talk to their doctor who says, did you realize you're like 40 pounds overweight? And not that you have a conversation just like that, but just, being able to have those conversations with people can be preventative in some ways. And I think the goal is, boy, if we can catch some of these things early, can we prevent people from having diabetes down the road, or can we prevent people from having, whatever the condition may be, just due to an lack of understanding about what good health is. So,
you just mentioned something about telling somebody, did you realize you're 40 pounds overweight or something like that? That made me think, because doctors are like anybody else. There's that range of personality in there. Is a good bedside manner, which I think you're exceptional at. Is a good bedside manner learned?
Yes.
Is it learned, or is it something developed? I mean, yeah. Well, I guess that's the same thing. Is it, or is it natural? I guess I should say.
I think it's probably a little bit of both. I think it's probably more natural than anything.
Yeah.
I mean, the more I have interactions and have conversations with other doctors, and to some degree, you either have it or you don't. Now, that being said, I've had a lot of people who are interested in going into medicine who have often asked me, well, what is the number one thing that you think that I should do to prepare myself for being a doctor? Mm-hmm. And I tell them, go get a job at a restaurant waiting tables. And they look at me like, what are you talking about? But from the time I was, and I'm not saying this is the path, but this is my experience. At an early age, I got a job at Ponderosa Steakhouse, and
nice.
it was a easy, it was a job. The restaurant was right down the road from my house, but I'm telling you, that helped me more than anything, because when you're dependent on your interactions with people and how they perceive you and how you connect with them to make a buck on a tip, all of a sudden it starts developing your ability to read people, to understand people, to interact with people that, this is a family that wants to kind of joke around and laugh, and we can do that. This is a family that just wants to be left alone at their table. And so as you develop those skills, I think that those are things that can help you in terms of being just developing relationships. And so can it be learned? Sure. I mean, I think there's a variety of experiences that you can have that can help you develop those things, but I think some of it is just personality too. There are plenty of doctors who are very, what I call sciencey, and they just, they're always going to be kind of a science and book and numbers kind of person, and they don't necessarily relate to people very well. That doesn't make them excellent doctors. You just may walk into their office and walk out feeling like, man, I didn't connect with that person, but they know what they're talking about, and I'm glad I went. Other times you're going to go and say, like, man, I just really connect with that person, or I feel like they get me. And I think that's valuable as well.
Yeah, I appreciate a straight shooter, but not so much at the doctor's office.
I've heard like mixed reviews.
You want somebody that beats around the bush?
A little bit. Well, it's like I don't know why it's got.
I gotta give you that one.
I don't know why we're going there. No, it's like that. But when you did say that, it's funny to me, because here you are. You're a runner. You're in shape. What do you go about 165? Somewhere in there. 55, 60.
Bench,
I try to keep
you
it.
bench 350, squat 400, something like that.
But my point is, when we're talking, he'll say things like, "Well, Jim, as we get older, we tend to." He throws, he throws a lot of.
He's trying to soften the blow a little bit. You know what I mean?
As we get older, sometimes our bodies will hold on to. Well, yeah. So, our bodies will hold on to cake and pizza. Apparently,
well,
there's no
sure. That is a factor.
But no, I appreciate that. more than just the guy. You fat. You lose weight. You die. Like,
do you get medical advice at all of the Chinese restaurants you go to? Because
no,
that's all I'm hearing.
No, all I ever hear them say, "You have too much. You sit down. You done."
I don't.
You
why
fat boy.
Why would they say you have too much?
Because
you just pay.
You fat boy.
Maybe the buffet. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a. Oh, yeah. You know I'm going to a buffet. Come on.
Hey, I don't know you. I don't
Hannah
know.
hates buffets because it's a bland food and a lot of it.
Yeah, but see, then you can eat a lot of it. If you want.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir, sister.
Do you wish that you had tip jars? Like people could tip you for like a good job? Hey, man, thanks for curing a disease.
I'll always work for a little extra.
I mean, if you cure somebody's cancer, help out with that, that's at least worth a $5.
Yeah, he's changing my oil before he leaves today in my truck.
So, I don't know what other doctors' experiences are with that, but I'll tell you, I have a great panel of patients, and I have a very appreciative group of patients, and the tips that I get, and this is probably not always good, but the tips that I get are usually someone bringing in donuts when they come in for their appointment and saying thanks for what you do, or someone dropping off cookies or a tray of fruit or a.
So you're telling me that when I come in for an appointment, there are odds that there are donuts or cookies somewhere in that building?
Not for you.
The odds are pretty
high. Not for you.
Yeah.
You're on the slim boy. You're on the slim down plan right now. You're on, you know what I'm saying?
But do you see how he kind of turned that? Because I meant that to be kind of a little suggestion that he brings donuts, and he's looking for.
No, I know better than that. My blood pressure would never. I'd never get my blood pressure down sitting in the lobby.
You'd get the holiday 2-pack from Krispy Kreme. He'd bring that in. You'd be like, "Where's the rest of it?" You'd be like, "Oh, this is all they sold at the store.
This is how they sell them now."
Yeah.
Lynn is a listener. She says, "Is it true that we sweat 1 gallon per day from our feet?" And her follow-up to that is that why feet are so ugly?
I feel like this person knows you and your overwhelming fear of feet problem.
I don't know. You're probably not going to have me back after this, but if you're ever going to have me back, maybe I can do a little research and find out if that's true or not. I've never looked into that. Now,
have you heard that?
Well, my knee-jerk reaction to that would be no, that's not true. The reason I would say that is because the majority of us drink very much less than a gallon of fluids every day, or if we do drink more than a gallon of fluids, it's probably not that much. Now, if we were losing that much just from our feet, we would have no need to urinate or anything else because all the fluid that we took in is now leaving through our feet. So, and everybody would go around with very mushy shoes and socks if you were losing a gallon of fluid from your feet. So,
have you done that before? Have you gone to I'm going to use Cedar Point as an example because I actually did it there one time.
Water rides? Is that
what? No, that's not.
Or you just sweat so much that your socks are soaked.
No, I would drink like the big drinks that they have there, the monsters, like just killing them and not have to pee the entire day.
Yeah, and that's because of sweating. I mean, when you're working, you're losing a lot of fluids through perspiration if you're out on a hot day and you're walking around and you're doing a lot. And so, you're not going to urinate as much. So, and that's, we all talk about staying hydrated. And if it's hot out, make sure you're drinking extra fluids. And that's the reason, because you just need it. You do lose a lot more fluids than you realize on hot days just through sweat, but it's not all through your feet.
Yeah. We sweat a lot out of our head, don't we? Yeah, absolutely. I have to fall back really quick to the bedside manner thing because I forgot about a story, and I don't mind telling stories about myself.
Clearly,
I had to go to the doctor because I was. This is a true story. I won't ask him to confirm it because he's too nice.
HIPAA, right?
I went in because I was having an itchy, backside. I was itching.
Asshole.
The
well, you don't have to call me names. But yeah, I had a bad itch, and he did all the checks he could do in the office.
Visually.
And then
probably. You don't.
No,
It's not somewhere you want to get hands on. You know what I mean?
No, he went hands on because I took my wife with me because I knew it was going to happen. But he checked everything they're going to check, and the result was he said to me, "Sometimes your rectum will just itch." That's fair. Did you not? That was his. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the fun thing about that is that's not an uncommon thing, believe it or not. And, as doctors, we don't want to just give somebody a diagnosis of itchy butt or something like that, because that just doesn't, it's like, really, I came to the doctor to find out that that's what my diagnosis is. So that's why we use Latin a lot of times, because it makes it, it really
sounds way cooler.
Yeah. It sounds cooler, and we can charge more because you're like, I'm not paying that guy $90 to tell me I got an itchy butt. But, if we say you have pruritus ani, doesn't that
yeah, that sounds way cooler.
It sounds way this is serious now, and I realize I've spent good money to get that kind of diagnosis.
Yeah.
So,
well, my follow-up would be, well, clearly that's cancer. He just doesn't want to tell me.
Yeah, that's when you WebMD that.
No,
like,
but you provided me some stuff that it's gone now.
Good.
Took care of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes those little things can be, big deals.
Yeah. It was irritating.
Yeah, you don't want to see it. People don't want to see you scratching.
Yeah. Yeah. That gets weird. It gets weird.
This one's from Jim, a listener. From a medical standpoint, clowns, what are they doing?
Everything wrong.
Now, so I have a little bit of a question before I answer your question.
Yeah.
So before you mentioned that you have 3 listeners.
Yeah.
So, but we've had well more than 3 listener questions. So what I'm wondering is, are you making up these listeners so that the questions that you really don't want to ask, you can attribute to a listener, and then you don't look?
Absolutely.
That
is absolutely the case.
I thought I had it figured out.
Yeah. So, none of these are actual listeners. Not a single one that I've read is from an actual listener.
So clowns and what's going on with them medically?
They gotta have super sweaty feet.
Because remember, you can ask.
That probably a gallon out of those things.
Yeah,
medically
especially if they have the big shoes, because those things are probably hot.
For sure.
Yeah. Are you aware of that situation? Did you see any of that in the news?
With the clowns jumping out of the woods and that kind of thing. Is that what maybe that's what the question's about? I mean, those people are just
psychosis.
I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I don't know what I can answer in terms of what's going on medically with them, but boy, I don't even know.
Do you like horror movies? Do you like scary movies? I don't do them.
No.
He does.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't.
No. It's not my thing.
What is your thing? Outside of running, what is your relaxation?
That's about all I have time for.
I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy, like I said, I suppose my biggest diversion would be sports of some sort. And if I can watch sports or something, I enjoy that. I occasionally will, get involved in a game, a pickup game of basketball and not too
You ever dunk on somebody?
At 5'6", no, but
you can. I still believe in you.
I'm just glad I can,
Spud Webb.
jump up and you barely touch the bottom of the net. That's like
just slap glass on the layups. Are you a trash talker when you play?
No, I'm
I can't imagine.
I'm pretty quiet.
I bet you
cross somebody over like, how you like that, huh? How are your ankles now?
I bet you've never returned a plate of food, have you?
I don't think so.
Nope. He's that guy. You can just tell. I'm not saying you're a pushover. You're not a pushover.
Just polite.
Yeah. Yes. Very polite.
I could probably make it work.
Yep. This is our last listener question.
We could use air quotes like I did with doctor.
Yeah.
Listener.
I'm not going to say medically speaking in front of this one. My boyfriend's Prince Albert is always infected and smells like a can of tuna puked out rotten Indian food. Can I catch something nasty? Now that's
for sure
transferable. I don't like infection.
You don't even need to be a doctor to say, yeah, you need to avoid that situation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's just a bad deal.
First, yeah, for piercings. Come on.
So are we talking about piercings now, or what
Well,
are we
Prince
talking
Albert.
Yeah.
You're aware
For
Prince Albert.
everybody's, that's a piercing in the tip of your penis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. That's new information to me. Actually,
Really?
I've never heard that term before.
Oh,
so,
get on your internet.
Yeah.
Just put it in.
Just WebMD
Google.
that.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, with that being the background, without knowing for sure what why it's swollen and draining and things like that. I mean, it sounds like there's infection there of some sort. Now, chances are, I mean, if it's a monogamous relationship, chances are it's not a sexually transmitted infection, although it could be without him going to the doctor and having it tested and knowing what it is. I mean, my general advice would be if there are kind of rashes, lesions, drainage, other things like that from male or female body parts, that would probably, the best advice would be to be abstinent over a period of time until that can get figured out in order to avoid transmission. So
that's a good answer.
That's right. No glove, no love. You know what I mean?
So there you go, Bree. He answered it like a doctor. Do it or don't. He's not sure. I got to tell you a quick story. Where are we at on time, sir?
We're good.
Okay. The reason I'm not in medical school,
I know several, or I could throw out several reasons, but go.
Well, during my training, when I was at Bob's Institute of Medicine and stuff, I was doing my internship there, and I was in the ER, and they brought a guy in, and he had some issues I'd rather not discuss because they
HIPAA, right?
So I ordered up as you will. You'll tell me if where I went wrong here. I ordered up 30 cc's of milligrams and
30
stat
cc's of milligrams.
Yeah, and had those.
And you got to say stat.
Yeah, they were
every
stat.
time you order anything.
Yeah, they were
needs
stat.
to be done stat.
And killed a guy. Killed him right there on the table
with the medicine.
He didn't make it. So that was my last day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably a good idea.
So where'd I go wrong there in your opinion?
Your units of measure are a little bit confusing.
Oh, so I gave him too much or too little?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you gave him yet.
Yeah.
Because you haven't really told me. You just gave him.
Well, there are 30 cc's of milligrams. Straight up. I've made that pretty clear. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so where'd I go wrong, do you think?
I think your first step into the door of the ER was your first mistake.
Boom.
Nailed it. Well, do you have anything you want to tell listeners to finish up so we can get you out of here? I know you're a busy man.
Wow.
Anything you want people to know?
Door's wide open, huh?
Wide open.
I'll narrow it because I got a question.
All right.
You're a Cubs fan.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever, and if you haven't, can you explain how to disable a White Sox fan with just your hands? Like a pressure point that could almost kill him.
Oh, yeah. I bet you are ninja-like. Because
he knows stuff. You know what I mean? Like if he touches you on the neck and you just...
Yeah.
One of those things.
It's like that in Wonderful Mind. I bet when you sit somewhere and you're just looking at people, you just see math equations and stuff.
Boy, I'd love to be that kind of person, or I'd love to be ninja-like. I'm really neither. And if you ask my wife,
that's what a ninja would say.
She would be laughing because she realizes how kind of klutzy I am, and the idea of me being nimble and cat-like, ninja-like is probably. But I would say the best way that I could disable a person would be to put something on my hand that is noxious or that would, somehow cause them to pass out, because finding a spot on their... Yeah, exactly.
Human feces. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Nobody's wanting to touch that.
I don't know if that'd knock them out or not, but it would certainly make them go away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the best White Sox fan is one that's far from me. So
boom.
Nice.
I like it.
Nice. I bet it is tough for you to watch movies or things like that, because aren't you, or can you let it go basically is what I'm saying, your knowledge, where if you have like some slapstick comedy, like if you're watching the Three Stooges, do you think, that's not true because his orbital subliminal ligation.
I'm good on slapstick.
Yeah.
It's more, my wife gets really annoyed if we watch a movie that is, a more of a drama or something like that has medical type things, and I start making comments about, that would never happen like that, or that's totally, it's the ICU setting and they've got the patient on the ventilator and all that kind of stuff, and you realize that everything that's hooked up is completely fake because it would never look like that in real life, and
right.
She gets really annoyed if I make comments on those kinds of things. So
yeah, I can imagine.
See, I would like to have that though. I'd be like, see, it's good to know.
Yeah.
Well, can you watch cop shows?
No.
Do you watch? I can't.
I can until it gets to like the tactics portion of when they're doing like search warrants or arrest warrants or something, because everybody's just horrible with all their mechanics of like holding a gun.
Yeah.
Just awful.
And no paperwork.
Automatic. Yeah. Well, yeah. All the amount of paperwork that like an action movie, it would be incredible. Well, you're the same. You're the same way though. Like during the day, you don't just go from room to room to room to room. You see a patient, then you go do patient notes, and so you're as attached to a computer screen as we are.
Right.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and in any kind of movie like that, the portrayal, you're gonna see the Hollywood version of what. Whether it's cops or whether it's doctors or whatever, that's what you're gonna get. The old that's dating us, I guess, but the old ER show or whatever, where the doctors were involved in the ER and they just went from trauma to trauma, and boy, this is great. There was bus crashes and all this stuff happening right outside the door, and then they went on with their life. And the reality is, if they were dealing with all that stuff, it would just be incredibly more complicated than what you can show on a TV show. But
what was your favorite?
No one wants to watch that. No one wants to, watch a half-hour show of a doctor sitting in front of a computer filling out paperwork or on the phone with an insurance company. They want to, they want to see him saving someone's life and then taking the girl out to dinner or whatever.
Yep, 30 cc's milligram stat.
Yeah.
It'd be hilarious if there was a show like that. Like how they pitch it. They'd be all quick cuts of him like typing.
I'm starting to think they've got these shows now, like Real Housewives of whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe they could have a Real Doctors of Morrow County.
Yeah,
they could
like live PD, live MD.
Yeah, they could just watch me type on my computer. And
you're on to something.
Yeah,
I say we pitch it.
I like it.
Well, you Scrubs, right?
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a super funny show. I find it hilarious, and I've heard the rumor. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know, but that they said that was a more accurate portrayal of medicine, if you will, than most of like the ER shows and Grey's Anatomy or stuff like that.
Because they have consultants, probably had.
Well, sure, they did have like doctors consult on the show.
Yeah, and I would say there were plenty of situations on that show, and I haven't watched it for a while, but there were plenty of situations on that show that I kind of would roll my eyes at a little bit and say, "Oh my goodness!" From a medical perspective, this is just kind of silly. But I think what that show captured was all the, obviously the behind the scenes interactions, just the day to day that goes on in a hospital. And, as with any comedy, do they take it overboard? And is that probably beyond the everyday? Yes. But it's at some level, there is some of those interactions. And that's the fun of a show like that, is you just realize you can laugh at yourself and some of those crazy things that happen during the course of your normal work day. And I think they got that right in terms of medicine. It was a very good show.
You've done your time on 24-hour shifts, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They changed the rules. It was funny, right? Shortly after I finished my internship, they came out with new rules that kind of limited the amount of time that you could spend in the hospital, which ultimately I think is a good thing. Of course, having gone through it, it's probably like anybody who's been through basic training or something. You think everybody should do what you did because you had to suffer and
that's right,
and that type of thing. But yeah, I mean, there were weeks that by the time you tallied up your amount of time in the hospital for the week, it was well over 100 hours, 120 hours of time that of actual in hospital time. So I'm not sure that that's very effective in the long run, because at some point you just get so tired you're not learning anymore, and you could potentially be dangerous to patients if you're that tired and you can't really think straight. So I think the changes they made are good, but it's always fun to talk about the good old days.
Oh, sure. Well, I could talk to you all day, but we got to let you go. I know you got stuff to do.
All right.
All I ask you to do is love somebody.
Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Point 19 Productions, and to our podcast through iTunes or Stitcher. As always, we ask you help support the show by liking, commenting, and sharing our content. For up-to-date information regarding the B Team, head to thebteamwithcoryandjim.com.